So, Sayadaw has been speaking about, in the previous days, about the fourth of the five factors called Padani-anga, the five factors of one striving for liberation. And this fourth factor is described in Pali as Araddha Viriyo Viharati, Akusalanang Dhammanang Pahanaya, Kusalanang Dhammanang Upasampadaya. Sayadaw has been discussing this, combining the theory with what we actually do in the practice. And this is something, it can't be explained in an ordinary or superficial way. It has to be explained in detail. So the kilesas have been following us throughout lifetimes. And as much as possible, we have to dispel them. So this is not something that can be done while they're happening or after they happen. What we have to do is to eliminate the ones that have the potential to arise. So we have to, instead of letting these kilesas arise, we have to replace them with Viriya. If one is lazy, then kilesas enter the mind and they burn one. Lobha, lust or greed, burns one when it arises. Dosa is also something which burns, anger. And moha, a delusion, also burns. So if these have a chance to arise when we don't apply viriya, laziness is what lets these in. So viriya, our effort to observe the object, is what overcomes laziness. It gets the upper hand on laziness. So in order to observe the ever new arising object that occurs within our whole being, we have to apply energy right when the object arises so that sati will stick to it. One can't be cool or sluggish or slow about this. So when we make this type of ardent effort, then lobha, greed, dosa, anger, can't arise. And this is what is meant by akusalanang dhammanang pahanaya. This is not giving unwholesome dhammas, akusala, a chance to arise. When we make effort like this, concerted effort, to observe each arising object, when effort occurs one moment after another, then the unwholesome mind states that are led by greed, lobha, or led by anger, dosa, do not have any opportunity to arise. What does have a chance to arise is kusala. Wholesome dhammas now have a chance to arise. These are led by sati. Sati comes about because we make effort to get the mind to reach the object when it arises, and because there's the factor of aiming, which makes the mind accurate. So when these two factors are there, sati will be there. And with practice, sati becomes stronger and sticks with the object. So the mind doesn't go anywhere. So at this point, first of all, we apply effort so that we don't give kilesas a chance to arise. The kilesas such as laziness. And that's the first part of what we do, akusalanang dhammanang pahanaya. And then the second part is we give a chance to kusala dhammas to arise, kusalanang dhammanang upasampadaya. doing this time and again, our effort increases, its momentum increases, and it's no longer launching effort anymore. It reaches the second stage of effort, the increased effort in order to overcome difficulties. And in continuing to apply effort, Viriya becomes the type of effort called parakama dhatu. This is the effort that goes up stage by stage, never letting up. This is the third stage. It never lets up until we reach the goal. So what is it that we are aiming for when we make this type of effort? We're aiming for true freedom. And with true freedom, we have true peace. We should have this objective. So the power of our effort becomes firm, and Viriya increases stage by stage. So this is what is meant by Araddha Viriyo Viharati Akusalanang Dhammanang Pahanaya Kusalanang Dhammanang Upasampadaya. So what we are doing this for is to bring mental powers into existence and to bring them to fulfillment. The mind that occurs together with lobha, greed, that occurs together with dosa, anger, is blameworthy. It is fault. It has faults. And when these aren't present, this is wholesome or kusala. This is called anavajja, to be free of these faults, such as lobha and dosa. When a person is greedy, and that greed is strong, those around that person blame that person. They'll say something like, "Oh, he or she is so greedy." And when anger is excessive, people will say, "Oh, that person has no patience at all." So one is criticized by those around one because of these kilesas. That's why they're called avajja. They're faults. When people are very deluded, then they're considered to be, "Oh, how stupid that person is. How could they be so stupid?" So this is what people say when the kilesas are evident in us. We get criticized like that. So anavajja is not like that. To be free of fault, to be clean and pure, is not like that. When one keeps sila, one's physical and verbal behavior is clean and pure. And with the samadhi group, with the factors of samadhi, of the three factors of the samadhi group that are being developed in the practice, one doesn't transgress even in one's mind. This is kusala. This is wholesome, the wholesome mind. It is free of fault. Being free of fault, it's clean. What is clean is a high-level state of mind. It's not base or low. It's cultured, well cultivated. And to the extent that one applies courageous effort to observe the arising object, time and again, there will be this clean mind that is free of fault, pure, cultivated. If one applies courageous effort every second, then in 1 minute there will be 60 times that this clean, wholesome mind arises. Another way of looking at it is that this clean mind is cool and peaceful. It's free of the fire of raga, lust, free of the fire of dosa, anger, free of the fire of intense stupidity. These fires are being reduced. They're being quelled, calmed. This kusala chitta, this wholesome consciousness, is praiseworthy, and it is to be cherished. With each observation of the object, this kusala chitta, this wholesome mind, occurs one by one, time after time, one after another. So this is what is meant by having powerful ability with regard to kusala Dhamma. This is called in Pali tamava. So the Buddha, in describing this fourth factor called padani anga, said tamava danla parakamo aniketa duro kusalesu dhamesu. Tamava means that we have a firm power, and our effort becomes very good. So one no longer wants to give up. So this is danla parakamo aniketa duro. One's effort only increases, and one doesn't let up. That is what is meant by aniketa duro with regard to kusala. This comes about because of this making ardent effort, having developed our effort to dispel the unwholesome dhammas and to give wholesome dhammas the chance to arise. That is, this is the result of Araddha Viriyo Viharati. Akusalanang Dhammanang Pahanaya, Kusalanang Dhammanang Upasampadaya. So this powerful, wholesome effort becomes very good. It arises and is very good. What we are doing now is not just theory. It is extremely practical. It is experiential. It is not something just to be thought out. The Buddha laid down a plan for this work of practice. He showed how it is to be done. One has to observe the arising object within our being, right at the moment it arises, every time. And knowing that this is the basic plan, knowing the benefits this brings, having faith and desire to do the work to get the benefits, one applies effort. When one does this, a very powerful, firm type of effort that does not back off, that does not give up, arises. Can this be denied? Is this something where we need to ask, well, how does it happen? Why does it happen? The fact is that this is what happens. So, whenever we reflect on something, trying to analyze, well, why is it happening like this? What is this? This is a loss of our time. So, if we want to use our time so that it's going to be valuable, we just have to eliminate the time that is spent reflecting and thinking about what is happening. So why and how and so on. If we can eliminate this reflection for 1 minute, we gain 1 minute of observing, valuable observation. And in 5 minutes instead of letting ourselves reflect, using our minds to observe the arising object, then we gain 5 minutes of wholesomeness. So when we don't apply effort to observe the arising object, but just let ourselves think about things, then in 1 minute of thinking about stuff, there will be 1 minute of loss. And in 5 minutes, 5 minutes of loss. So, and even worse if we spend our time looking here and there. So one loses out on the wholesome mind. One loses out on developing the kusala, wholesome mind. So now it has been over 1 month, and some yogis do cherish the wholesome state of mind. But some, either because they don't understand the benefits of the practice of satipatthana, or know the benefits but don't have faith in them, or because they may have faith but no desire, not strong desire to gain the benefits, or simply no application of effort. So in this case, nothing special will be happening. So one needs to be aware that this is how it works. The Buddha said that to clean up the defilements of the mind, the kilesas, that have been following us throughout lifetimes, there is a sure path. There is a sure path to overcome sadness, sorrow, lamentation. There is a sure way to put an end to mental pain and physical distress. There is a very sure path to eliminate kilesas once and for all. There is a sure path to realize true freedom and true peace. This path is to observe every arising physical action whenever it arises. That is, kaya nupassana satipatthana. To observe every arising feeling, good or bad, when and as they arise. This is Vedananupassana Satipatthana. To observe every thinking, reflecting, every type of mind that arises. That is Chittanupassana Satipatthana. To observe every arising Dhamma process, such as seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking. These two, this is Dhammanupassana Satipatthana. These are the 4 large fields of observation that we work with. And within these, we have to apply effort so that the mind can reach the newly arising object of whatever type it is within these large fields of observation. So we apply effort. And the Buddha urged us to do this. He told what the benefits are of doing the practice as a way to urge us to do the practice. So how is it that we need to work? If kaya, matter, arises, we have to observe it with the type of observation called anupassana. If feeling, vedana, arises, we observe it with anupassana, observation. When chitta arises, any type of mind, thinking, planning, and so on, we observe it with observation, anupassana. Whenever any general action such as seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking arises, we have to observe it with anupassana, this type of observation. So the Buddha, basically, what we use is anupassana, repeated observation. And the Buddha showed practically how we need to do this. Among the 4 large fields of observation, whenever an individual object arises, we have to push the mind to reach the object. We have to always incline the mind to observing the newly arising object. We have to turn our mind towards doing this. It said, note at every arising, always guard the mind. So whenever an object arises, right when it arises, we have to try to observe it. And at the start, when we haven't gained experience yet, we simply have to have trust in the benefits that the Buddha talked about. But later on, through the practice, one develops a clean mind and one realizes that this is what we are aiming for. This clean mind starts to develop. And at that point, when the yogi sees that this is what comes about, the yogi continues to apply effort, which brings mindfulness, sati, which brings samadhi. So these factors of viriya, sati, and samadhi become complete. And based on this, knowledge arises. So if one doesn't follow the instructions the way the Buddha explained, then one won't come to generate this clean mind. One won't realize that this is the purity that we are aiming for. So one doesn't understand how this benefits one's life. So if that is the case, one doesn't realize this initial benefit, and one doesn't see, therefore, how this practice benefits one's life, then one will just waste one's time. So this method is the method that the Buddha himself used, and he explained it. When one practices honestly, with respect for the practice, the benefits start to materialize. And one experiences then the good results of the practice. So in that case, the work, one is doing the work in a model way. One is working according to the model of instructions, according to the instructions that the Buddha laid down. One becomes an example. And in whom does this happen? Where that one's practice develops and one realizes benefits, and where one's practice becomes a model. This happens in one who has faith in the instructions, who has strong desire, and who works in a respectful way, respectfully, meticulously. If one doesn't have faith or strong desire to gain the benefits of the practice, then one doesn't apply oneself to following the instructions. So one's practice doesn't get to the point where it is a model, where it is a good example of what practice should be. So in this case, one doesn't realize what the value of the practice is. And what can happen is that one doesn't apply oneself to the instructions, and so one goes and tries something else. And not applying oneself with another method, one goes and tries something else. And if one keeps on going from method to method without really applying the instructions accurately, without really undertaking the method seriously, then eventually what happens is one loses faith in the Dhamma because one doesn't see results. So this is something that one needs to be quite careful about. Although one may be, by nature, someone who thinks and reflects a lot, if one works according to the instructions, with faith, with a strong desire to gain benefits and ardent effort, because of one's effort, there will be results. These results are tamava, danla parakamo, aniketa duro, kusalesu tamesu. What happens is that the kusala mind, the wholesome mind, occurs again and again and again, just like it's lining up one after another. One gains a lot of power with regard to kusala. This is called tamava. One has a lot of strength, and this strength is very praiseworthy. And one's effort becomes firmer and firmer. It increases stage by stage. This is danla parakamo, a firm effort which always increases. With this, one doesn't give up. One realizes, this is the most important thing I can do right now. And one doesn't give up until one reaches the goal. This is aniketa duro. One doesn't put down the task that one is now involved in. So this is what happens when one applies effort. In essence, because one practices and gains experience or skill, then within the large field of observation, whether what arises is kaya, physicality, matter, whether what arises is vedana, whether the mind arises, whether various general objects arise, as soon as the object arises, one has the effort to reach them, reach the arising object. This is called anupasana. This observation called anupasana has gained full strength. So with regard to the arising matter or kaya, one has observation of that as it is, kaya anupasana. Whether on the arising feeling, good or bad, there is observation, vedana anupasana. On every thinking, reflecting, planning, imagining, there is chittanupassana, observation of the mind. On every type of natural phenomena, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and so on, there is dhammanupassana, observation of Dhamma. So this anupassana occurs time and again, one after another, because of the power of our viriya, our courageous effort. So due to applying effort, ardent effort, courageous effort, one has developed the practice to the stage where it is a model. Following that, how the mind becomes clean, how the knowledge which discerns the difference between nama and rupa, the knowledge of how these are related as cause and effect, the knowledge of their various characteristics of arising and passing away, of being unsatisfactory, of having no inherent self, and the knowledge called udiyabhyajnana, where one sees the very fast arising and passing away of the object. And at this stage, how one tastes the Dhamma for the first time. This is what Sayadaw will talk about tomorrow night. That's all for today. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.